Welcome. Wait, we ain't done yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, now we are now. Hi, good evening. Welcome to Eleni show tonight on intimacy, the what can ruin intimacy, right? We have Randy, we have Karita, we have Neil again. Welcome, Neil, Randy, and Karita. And we have Ranchi that's going to be coming on in a little bit. He's going to be a little bit late. Um, how has everybody week been?
Yeah. All right.
Great,
Busy,
great.
busy.
Busy? Yeah, yeah. Not mine. I've been on vacation. I took a little vacation after Thanksgiving, so start work again. I start back working today, so yeah. But I run my own business, so that don't even make no sense. I could go on vacation whenever I feel like it. So anyway, um, tonight we're going to be talking about what can ruin intimacy, right?
Mhm.
And um, we're talking about intimacy because this is an important area in relationships, because without intimacy the relationship is dead, in my opinion. And we could look at it from a romantic relationship, but we could look at it from any relationship, because of what intimacy is. It's a closeness, is a togetherness of two or more people. And if we don't have that, what do we have? We have actually, two separate people that just ain't communicating or connecting at no level. So we're looking at a wall where the relationships have changed over the years, and that's expected. But we are trying to not come back to, but maybe look at healthy relationships and how to be in healthy relationships, which may be different than what we've been experiencing in the past. I don't know. That's just me trying something out there, because we hear a lot of things about toxicity and bad relationships, and the divorce rate is over 50%, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why come up with that conclusion. But when you guys hear about intimacy, Randy, Karita, and Neil, we're gonna start with Karita since she's a lady. When you hear the word intimacy, what do you think?
What is intimacy to me?
Mhm.
To me, intimacy is a deep connection that two individuals have outside of the physical connection. So, for me to have true intimacy with someone, it means like they can somewhat finish my sentences to a certain extent, or I can say something and they know exactly what I mean, or like they can just look at my face and they know exactly what I need. And like, you know, that's what intimacy for me is. That's what I think. Hmm. It's more a mental way of communicating passionately with your mate, your partner, than the physical. So many people get mixed up and intimacy is sex, and it really isn't. If you don't have intimacy, you can't even get to home base. To me, if you, yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, sorry, trying to get on Facebook and do a little something. I can't wait till we get live to get to it, and then I just saw something that threw me off. But um, yes. So, Randy, what is your take on intimacy?
A lot.
Like,
Intimacy is, yes, the young lady was correct. There's multiple levels of connection: physical, mental, spiritual, intimacy. Um, but even though those are what make the connection healthy,
mm-hmm,
as far as the topic is concerned, what kills it um, is more like some kind of outside struggle. Uh,
mm,
People could struggle with things internally as well, but I feel that pressures from outside the relationship contributes, not per se the main thing, but contributes to intimacy killing. It could be uh, having a bad day or week or months at work, no communication, finances, a lot of things that could deter you from being intimate.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it is something that has to become between two people,
Mm-hmm.
understand and want and reached. So I guess once it's broken, the question is how can you fix it? I guess.
Okay. Okay. So, Neil, you next.
Um, I think for me, um, everything about a relationship is intimacy, right? Looking at the person, thinking about them, right? How you feel about a person,
Mm-hmm.
um, how the person makes you feel, right? That type of connection on all levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a non-verbal, verbal,
Mm-hmm.
physical, non-physical,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, all that stuff. And when not only is there a lack of communication or even like to Randy said outside interference, but we gonna always have some kind of anomaly, interference, whatever it may be. But if it doesn't get fixed, right? Um, you could be broken and you could heal, right? So regardless of whether it's a physical part or the mental or the spiritual part, if it stays broken for too long, it's hard to come back, right? But if you could, if there's some interference and you could still fix it and get around that whole interference, then I think um, that's what makes healthy relationships. But if you keep it broken for too long, you keep getting the same kind of interference and no resolution to it, you know, the old saying goes, you know, um, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right, is insanity. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's my take. Everything about a relationship is intimate to me.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just certain parts of it that don't have problems, and then you know, you can't let it fester too long.
So, I hear why you're saying I ought to be so distracted in the beginning when they're being there here. I forget to say they're being on beyond tonight because she at home, but she there live on Facebook, so everybody probably know that already. Um, so we talk when I say we talk, what does intimacy mean to you? Everybody express what it means to them and what it means to them in a relationship. Randy, you explained it well, and HRI explained it well, and it is emotional, it is spiritual, it is physical, it is sexual, it's non-sexual, it's verbal, it's non-verbal, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about so like Neil, you just said that, I wanted to address this. Randy, you said that some outside interference. You talked about outside interference. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Friends, family, co-workers, allowing people to get inside your head while in a relationship, um, taking bad advice, and using it or letting it hinder your feelings towards your mate. Um, what else? Pretty much, you know what they say, old saying, when you have problems, you don't tell your family. Don't get your family involved in your relationship because they're gonna be jealous. So
Mm-hmm.
you allow them to get in your head, and now you took an issue to another level, which now kind of put your intimacy on a different plate. So you're no longer intimate because you have these people in your ear who have no real relevance in your relationship or shouldn't have one. and now you've lost, and now you have to try and figure it out on how to get it back.
Well, I want we to bring it more personal. I want us to bring it more personal. So I put up a video today, right?
Mhm.
I mean, telling I speak your business, but speak it as much as you're willing to. And it could be from the past, it could be from childhood, it could be from what you see. It don't have to be just your personal thing. So I put up a video today, right? Like I said, it could be verbal, it could be sexual, non-sexual, verbal, non-verbal, right? So we're gonna talk about that. But let me start with the sexual first, right? Because every time we hear intimacy, the first thing we think of is sexual, right?
Mhm.
We know that's not the case because we also have the non-sexual. But I put up a video today and it didn't generate much of a conversation. It was only me and Mbaku that was talking about it, about and Mr. Rivers, that Tyree Rivers. We were talking about porn having an effect on, because Randy, you mentioned the outside interference and how porn can have an effect on intimacy. And some people, of course, agree. Some people don't agree. So let's start with Corita. Corita, what do you think about pornography? And it's not just pornography. It's pornography. It could be masturbation, different things. We're learning that these things are having an effect on intimacy.
Right.
What's your take on that, Corita?
So my take is absolutely it can affect your intimacy with your partner because sometimes, well, not sometimes, definitely porn can be addictive. And if you are finding yourself, pleasing yourself through porn or being satisfied through porn, what energy, emotionally, mentally, physically, will you have for your mate? And then, in another sense, if you're so addicted to porn, this is just my take on it. I don't know, guys may have a different view. But for me, I'm like, if my mate who constantly is watching porn comes to me and then all of a sudden, like, they want to act out all these crazy porn scenes and stuff like that. And then it makes me feel like I'm just an object of his fantasy through the porn, through his addiction. He's not actually having sex with me. Is he just living out that fantasy that he gets from the porn? What is it? And so it really will cause women to like shut down, like, you know what, I'm not about to be your little stripper in your fantasy. Or you know what I'm saying? It's different when you're role playing with your mate and you guys say, okay, so this is a scene, this is what we're gonna do, blah blah blah. But if it's like really like coming over into your relationship where you can't even function, right? Then it's becoming a problem. And then, like with the whole technology, if you are constantly on your phone watching porn or on your iPad or your computer, on like what time you have for your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whomever, you know what I'm saying? Because you're in your phone constantly, and they'll just turn people off.
So,
And
Randy,
for women,
mhm.
before we can get physical, we really want you to like, bring your A game, your smooth talk and know, what my favorite glass of wine is, fix my glass of wine without me having to ask, you know, you know, just the little things that you do before you end up, kissing and enjoying each other.
So you're saying basically he needs to invest in you
Mm-hmm.
and not have his attention trying to, create a scene through you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Randy, what do you
And
think
vice
about
versa.
that?
And
Huh?
vice versa. Us women, we have to do the same thing. We can't be in our
Right.
phone constantly. Some of us enjoy porn ourselves, but
Right. The statistic on it is I think
and,
28% of women are addicted to porn.
yeah, and I actually was in a women's group on Facebook. I'm in a women's group on Facebook, and one of the comments was, if a woman can't, pleasure herself in like real way, I'm trying to keep it clean, right?
Keep it clean, keep it clean.
If she can't like get it right for herself, then she really ain't gonna bring it in the bedroom with her mate, right? And there's a lot of women that like overly masturbate with their toys and stuff like that. And if you get your rocks on after yourself, then why what kind of substance you're gonna have with your mate? If you could just please yourself, you can just go please yourself and be like, okay, whatever. Go play
But your mate can't operate like an object, so then that could also cause a problem. And guys, you gonna shine me next, so get ready. But like guys, I don't have the capacity to vibrate, so what I mean, it could cause a problem, right? Because if you looking for a certain sensation, right, and you're familiar and your body done adjusted to this sensation, because that's what we're saying, like porn, it makes you crave the differences, and so you want different partners, you want different experiences, etc., and so it makes you want more and more, and this thrill, right? And you don't want to go less, you want to go for more. So then that could be the problem. So guys, let me start with Neil. What do you think? I can't hear you, Neil. You still can't hear you. Okay, now.
Okay, I think that.
You can't say nothing.
No. I think that by the time you get to that point, that's the symptom of a previous problem, right? Because when you get into a new relationship, everything hot and heavy, you ain't got time for all of other stuff, right? But here again, outside interference, you come home, you're tired, right? Or you're taking classes, right? You're in class and so on, and you're in school, you got to do all this stuff at night, you got children. At some point, because this is systemic to me, a lot of marriages, right? Is at some point you gotta give equal time, right? So if somebody feel like, hey, you ain't giving me the time I require, and you're saying, then the other your spouse is saying, well, I would like to, but I just exhausted or I tired, what's the alternative, right? Or you got a spouse that always in the streets, out with boys, or she hanging out with her girls all the time. Like it just got so many things. But to me, that's a symptom of a problem that happened, because that's how you just start going apart, right? In my book, that's how you just start going apart. When it's new, you got all the time in the world, you're on the phone, you're falling asleep on the phone and all of that stuff. But then at a certain point, you start going apart and stuff, then all that stuff to come in, all that stuff to seep in, right? All the marital, all that stuff to start seeping in. So I see it as that kind of stuff as a symptom of.
Yeah, I think you got a major point there. There's a problem happening before, but I've heard of situations that. And that's why this concept even came up. I've heard this situation because now we're at the other stage in life, right? And people coming in to second marriages, third marriages, these ain't new relationships. We ain't new in the relationship area. And sometimes the fact that you get accustomed to certain things before, or you get accustomed to certain things in your single life or whatever with your last mate, you bringing these things into the other relationship, and these are things that we just have to look at. But yes, it could be a problem, from that you had before, like you said. And yeah, you're right. Randy, you next.
I think about it differently. My perspective on porn could be addictive to the wrong person. It's very beneficial to a different person.
Right.
You have people that meet in two different lifetimes, in one lifetime, two different times. Men, I'll just put it this way as I know it. most women are not sexually advanced. They're more reserved.
Mhm.
Men are more out there, so they have more things going on. So here you go, you have somebody at level 7, and then you meet a woman that's at level 3, right? How do you bring her up to speed so that y'all could match intimacy and intensity and everything else? So, yes, you could introduce porn into the relationship to bring everybody up to a level playing field, so to speak. Now, don't get me wrong, too much of anything is never good for you. I don't care what it is. So, understanding and limiting and using it to benefit, I
Mhm.
feel okay. Now, Neil said you come home, you're tired, and you know somebody tired and somebody don't want to do it. Um, those kind of things are the norm in relationships. However, I feel also it can destroy the intimacy by you obtaining something that's false because it's not at home and it's not with the person you're with. But I also feel that if the relationship is lopsided one way or the other, people are going to find ways to comfort themselves.
Mm.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to give porn a bad name, but I'm also going to say this. Let me not jump around. I'm not going to give porn a bad name. I think it could be useful for the right situation, with the right couple, understanding each other and trying to go somewhere together. Keyword. Tricks of the trade. You learn something, you apply it, you learn your mate, you know what they want and what have you, and intimacy grows. And that seed was planted from porn. So I think it could be a good thing. Too much of anything is not good. Now I'm going to flip the script. Now you have a holier than thou guy lived his life in the church. Here comes a street girl, not a whore or anything of that nature, just somebody that has experience more than him.
Mm.
Mhm.
How do you get him to come out of the shell of his religious life to become more intimate or create some type of intimacy with you when his intimacy is really religious versus hers where it's non-religious? So you have to find something to bridge that gap. And I think bringing it full circle, porn is that gap, that filler, that filler. That's what it is.
Mhm.
My take.
So it's a balancing act.
That's a balancing act. Yeah, yeah. I guess you got a point there. Like, yeah. I just thinking like I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Um, and by no means am I against porn, which I think I am though. I don't know, just to be quite honest with you.
Like,
I trying to be cool here,
would you
but
get jealous? Would the
my late
jealousy
husband
of the
didn't
porn
my
also?
late husband didn't like porn, so and I've been married so long, so maybe that's my thing with it, so I don't have anything against it. It was just never a part of our lifestyle, so that's probably what the thing is about that.
Something,
Huh?
you might learn something.
I guess I am not against it. All I just saying is I'm not familiar with it. That's all I say. But,
I don't
huh?
I don't want to stray off the topic of intimacy. Sex is a taboo. And depending on where you from in the world, it's either very wide open or very closed. And I have
Right.
example. Where we from in the Virgin Islands, we are very sheltered.
Right.
Think about this. When I used to go to the beach, women used to wear short pants and jeans pants and t-shirt, and they in the water swimming.
The black girl them,
Eh, Pretty much.
the
Then
Fusion girl them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
St. Martin, couple islands down, and you could go to a nude beach, and everybody's calm, cool, and collective with that.
Right, right.
Nobody panicking. However, at the end of the day, it's not a good or a bad thing. I think it goes according to the couple involved.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you both have open minds and
That's
are
the goal.
you both accept whatever somebody has to offer to see if it works for you. And with intimacy, again, it comes in so many different forms. We could talk about this for a month and never hit the same thing twice.
Right.
It just depends on who it is, what they're into, and how they go about doing it.
But you see, the thing about intimacy, right, is that intimacy. So you have to have a trust value in intimacy. You also have to have an openness in intimacy, and you have to have vulnerability in intimacy. And me hitting them words is saying this, like I said, like
that's in the entire relationship.
In the entire relationship. But the thing about what creates, well, once you have that in the relationship, then you won't have a difficult time with intimacy, right? Because you already have this trust, you already have this openness, this closeness, right? So this is actually the non-sexual, right? And so we don't understand that these are the components that will ruin intimacy, because if you don't have a trust factor, like you said, Randy, for me, who's unfamiliar with certain things, I ain't comfortable with certain things. I have to have a trust with this person. I have to have an openness. And I have to be vulnerable with this person. So I have to be in a place with this person to enter into something that I'm unfamiliar with. And that's the thing about intimacy that we have to understand. What ruins intimacy beforehand? Like, people think of it just from a sexual perspective, but the non-sexual part of it is, am I close with my mate? Can I trust my mate? Can I talk to my mate? Can I share certain things with my mate? If we can't do that, we look at relationships where we see two ships in the night. These relationships exist, right? We've seen them where two people have no connection. That means they lack intimacy, right? Not just in a bedroom. We could assume it's outside the bedroom. Or you could have your moments where you connect, because we have that where people just connect on the physical. But we spoke about non-sexual marriages a couple weeks ago, right? And this is kind of,
because for me, I want to like you, right? I want to like being around you. Right. And I like you and I like being around you. Love and vulnerability and everything is just going to come like second nature. But if I don't like you, I'm not going to want to be intimate with you. Like, I'm going to be like, just get away. Get out my face. Get away. And you're going to be, guarded and just like ready to check out. And earlier today, I was like watching this video on Black Love about what kills intimacy. And the girl was like, there's 4 things that kill intimacy. It's the judgment, the resentment, the verbal communication, lack thereof, or like folks who have partners who talk at them and not with them. Like, you're always, belittling your mate, and you're always talking to them like they're your child or something. No, they're a grown adult. Like, give her respect, give him respect. And then she was like, lastly, was not taking accountability for your actions. If you're in a relationship where you're experiencing a lot of those things, the last thing I want to do is sit down and have an intellectual conversation with you, right? But the last thing I want to do is cuddle with you, because you just make my blood boil. I'm a Scorpio, like. I'm a Scorpio. So it's like with Scorpios, it's black or white. Gray areas, right? We just don't. So if we don't like you, it's like, get out my face. Right? And we just don't know how to like sugarcoat it. We tend not to have much filter either. So please forgive me. But yeah.
Yeah, I have a sister like that. Don't have much filter. But you're right, because complacency could be a problem that ruins relationship, right? And like you said, if I can't talk to you, if I gonna come to you and you gonna judge me, you know, like, oh, I gotta walk late. Brandy, you talk about the external. I gotta walk late. Neil, you mentioned the kids and all of that. These things are factors. If you cannot discuss these things in a safe place where you mate, then how are you going to solve the problem with intimacy? Blaming each other also could ruin intimacy. Oh, it's your fault. Because we know that, so I talking on an average. I'm not saying all men, I'm not saying all women. I'm saying we know that most men, and I put up another video with Black couples, and it was about 3 couples, married couples that were talking about their intimate life, right? And most of the times the men them had want sex more than the women. So we know that this is also an issue. But men were coming from an understanding place because women just had kids. How women feel insecurities could be cause a problem too, you know, how we feel about ourselves. And so let we talk about some of those issues. Health was another issue because one of the men, them, he wasn't always in the mood because he found out that he was diabetic and had issues. So now we and at this age too, we gotta look at that because we're having difficulties in some areas health-wise, right? And if we can't talk about it with our mate, then what happens? If we blame him, what happens? So, guys, you want to address them subjects?
Can I have the podium for now? Okay, so one of the things that I guess for me, I don't always look at life as 97% of the stuff we learn is informal and 3% is formal learning, right? So that goes to say, what you see growing up is probably what until you make a conscious effort to change all the stuff that you see and have you thinking a certain way. Like Karida said, well, if you go and you see all that stuff, don't come to me with it and so like, but if that's his desires and you're willing to please him, here again, you trust him, then who's to say that you may not like that? Right? So, but I know like, and we could go deep in this, right? A lot of times we just see stuff growing up and it'll shape the way that we look at marriages and people and the world. So, I mean, just having a certain type of mentality, if you don't meet that person that's your equal like that there, right? Or your yin, the yang to your yin, then I could see you bumping your head all the time because, you always are in turmoil internally because of your experience. Because we're all the sum of our experiences,
right?
It's this relationship is a deep period to me. Like it's time consuming. It consumes your soul, your spirit, all of that stuff.
That negative energy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, getting back to the topic, like, I mean, those are, I mean, I think those are key issues. But ultimately, it's how do you get past that, right? Because these things are not impossible. You have, like you said, have to be willing. You have to be willing to be vulnerable, to trust, right? And to be criticized at times, right? Because there's constructive criticism, but if you never been a person to take constructive criticism, anything anybody says could be looked at as just bad, just criticizing you and stuff.
But when you say criticism and conversation and stuff like that, right? I think we have to be very, very careful. Randy used a really good example, like one person coming, and you say too, Neil, when you say 97% is, environment and 3% is, farmer learning. But when Randy said, he used a good analogy when he talked about the young man who was a churchy and then the worldly lady. In that example, right? We the safe space is the most important part of conversation. Because we don't talk about conversation all the time. We always have the combo, and you just said, Neil, with criticism and stuff like that. Because we could be so judgmental, and that's a very important part of the conversation. We could be so judgmental of our mate and not see where they're coming from. And the group that the couples that I put up with, what I like about them was they were very understanding, but they were listening to each other. They weren't just talking to one another, they were listening to each other, because the husbands didn't care that the women them just had kids and had C-sections, but the women cared, right? And that's important, because if she cares about how she looks, because I can only talk about me. If I am insecure about my appearance, not because he says okay, that means I'm gonna feel good about it, right? But if he approaches me in a way where he's understanding and he's loving, again,
it helps, right? But
it helps.
But a lot of times you need professional help for that stuff also, because that could be something that you are self-conscious of when you've been a teenager, right? Because that's a big thing for teenagers. But then now you're okay, now, scars and stuff like that, they may just even throw you back into that whole loop, like. So I like to think that I don't really try and concentrate on intent more than words, right? Because here again, somebody could be yelling at you because they try to save you, but you're looking at it as they're disrespecting me. Or somebody could come to you and be nice to you, but they will just setting you up for stabbing your back. So, if you know that person really loves you and they demonstrate that, there's no reason as me to not trust them, right? Because you got to demonstrate that kind of stuff. If they haven't been doing that, yeah, it is, and along the way, even if you totally trust somebody, at some point you having enough conversation with them, they may say something kind of crazy to you at once or twice, but that don't allow you to. That shouldn't just allow you to just disavow the relationship because they come at you. Out of a million conversations, you may have 3 or 4 bad conversations with them, but I see a lot of people know they had friends for years, and then something happened, and then all of a sudden, like the friendship over. Not me, right? Because I know a man like Randy, he could come to me in a nasty way, but I know that the conversation we have over the years, he could get passionate like that, right? And I would try and listen and see where he's coming from all aspects, not just the words, because just the word attack, in a bad way, but it's applied in so many different ways, so many different meanings, so.
Right.
And in addition to that, what Neil was saying is the keeping the score. Sometimes even in how we communicate with our mate, it's just like, oh, you didn't do this time, and you didn't do that. It's just like, when is it a tit for tat? Like, okay, I didn't do that then, or I did do that then. But like, if you're gonna constantly bring it up to keep the score, to have you in a good light where I am not in such a good light, it's like that right there also breaks, kills the intimacy too. Like there should be no keeping score. Everybody has their transgressions. If you forgive your mate, you need to forgive your mate, right? If you ain't forgive your partner, then you need to go elsewhere, because all it's going to do is just like, terrorize the relationship. It's going to cause negative, toxic energy, and no one's going to want to be intimate with each other.
But you know what? Sometimes
everything I've done and everything I haven't done, or you compare me to, Susan husband that took her here and there, or Karen husband bought her a Gucci purse. Well, guess what? I'm not Karen's husband. I'm not Susie's husband, right? And all those kind of like comparing other marriages, because sometimes Susie's husband probably took her to, I don't know, Italy. It could be as like, like, please forgive me kind of trip, right? So the grass is not always green on that side. And some people tend to compare their wives, like, oh, you know, to women walking down the street and like, you know, like what men stop, think. Don't show your wife a picture of a beautiful, slim, trim woman when you know she just gave birth to twins, right? Because you know, in her mind, like she's suffering from like insecurities, how she's gonna get her body snatched back. You know what I'm saying? So
Part of
she's
depression.
pleasing to the eye of her husband. You know, men too, like, you know, sometimes, you know, in the pregnancy times, men put on weight too, along with us women, or just in life general. Like, you're not gonna be the stud that you were when you were 25 when y'all got married.
But Karita, men are suffering from these insecurities also.
We have pills for that
Pills for what, Randy?
to keep us 25.
Okay. Oh, when you get a pill, that's the sexual, but the none before you get to the pill. Because this is the thing, Karita, I love that you said forgiving your partner, but sometimes we have to forgive ourselves too, right? Because sometimes we do things and we cannot forgive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a part of being intimate with your partner, being able to forgive them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
forgive yourself,
Mm-hmm.
forgive each other, you know. And these things is what brings couples either closer together or to bring them further apart.
Right.
Also, we have the insecurities. We gotta have people not understanding each other. I'm gonna say sex language.
Ooh.
I
Okay,
don't use that.
you know, I believe in love languages.
Well, we always talk about the 5 love languages, but we don't talk about. And I figured that out on our last show. I don't know if Karita, you wasn't on a show when we were talking about communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned on that show that we all have different languages that we speak, and sometimes we do not understand each other's language. And sex language is one of them. We talk about sexual compatibility, but then we don't talk about, because we don't even know it exists, but a sex language, I think, exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it? And Randy used that as an example, but so one of the men then mentioned on the video that they don't like sympathy sex.
Mm-hmm.
What's
And
that?
a lot of the men then chime in and said they don't like that either.
What is that?
That's sex because you feel guilty and it's like sex out of obligation. Like, okay, it's been a week, it's time, you know.
Okay.
And
So-
I remember Vincent didn't like that at all.
And you know, I've heard from guys too. They don't like. Okay. Let's go. Like, hey,
Right. You're not interested. You're not like you don't, because I remember, I will let you talk, Randy. I will let you talk next. I remember oh God, I lost my train of thought. But yes, I heard one of the guys mention in the video, like, you know, come on, let's just get it over with, like you said, Karita.
Mm-hmm.
And some men, or maybe it wasn't in that, I mean, it might have been something Sissy put up, I don't know, that mentioned, like, a man wants to be wanted. A man wants to be wanted and desired by his mate. And when he's not wanted or desired or even asked by his mate, like when your mate always, when the man always have to do the accent and the woman never do the accent, the man have a problem with this. And so sometimes he does shut down. And I gonna just say that, like, Vincent didn't like none of them, those categories, and I couldn't understand why, because then there are other men who have a sex language of, I don't care. You're gonna give it to me, you're gonna give it to me, and I'm gonna take it because I want it, and you don't have to ask, so you don't have to be in a mood, it don't matter. And then we start to judge, like Karita said, you look at somebody else, you look at that couple, and you're like, well, they don't care, and but that's, you speak 2 different languages of what's going on in your house and in your bedroom, and your life has nothing to do with what's going on in the neighbors. So I think, Randy, you wanted to say something, and then Neil, you next. Randy, go ahead.
So, in a lot of relationships, intimacy is lost on a daily basis because of just life.
Right.
You create a, so every Thursday night is sex night. There's nothing intimate about it. It's just a part of the chore. So
Monotonous.
just
Mm-hmm.
move away and check it off the list.
Mm-hmm.
So I've met a person that told me they gave up sexuality for practicality.
They gave up what?
Sexuality for practicality. So it works for their schedule. They don't have to be all sexy and intimate and all of that. Let's do it, get it done. Now, you said something else. Men asking and being the guy to constantly hint about sex or intimacy, or he always
Like you're
push
begging.
it. At some point, yes, they're gonna shut down because, like you said, they want to feel needed, they want to feel wanted, they want to feel like somebody wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that. I must be honest and say I never ever thought that. I
I got
never did.
very, very big thing with men, simply because men is always the aggressor. Men are
Right.
9 out of 10 times, men are the aggressor. But that one time, we definitely need that one time. And at the end of the day, I said this on off the show the other day. Um, Sometimes people do things that is intimate and is great, but there's no gain for them. Remember we talk about that? There's no gain. Everybody think there's a gain, but I feel there's no gain. So
Mm-hmm.
you could be you could do nice things, or that's a form of intimacy. Um, there's so many variables with this, but at the end of the day, women that have children and put on weight and body not the same, and men with problems down low. Listen, them things are all fixable.
Right.
Every one of those scenarios we like speak on and spoke on today is nothing that couldn't be fixed. The question is, if you've done gone so far that intimacy was checked off and you trying to check out. So the first thing that do go is intimacy. You ain't want,
Mm-hmm.
like the young lady said, she don't want to be with nobody if she ain't like them. And if you don't give up that, you don't like them no more, then why laying down with you for? So there's need for that. So intimacy is a very good thing if you keep it on a daily basis, because again, it could be verbal, it don't have to be sexual. There's so many variables of being intimate that we generalize it,
Mm-hmm.
specifically pinpointed to sex. But think about the conversation you had over a cup of wine, a glass of wine, sorry. And that was an intimate setting. That was an intimate conversation. That was, you know what I mean? That was just a great time. Nobody ain't laid down with nobody. You watch a movie together and the 2 hour you had a discussion. Those are all forms of intimacy. But again, we as people
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship, when you're dealing with life, may have children and careers and all these kind of things. Sometimes intimacy is pushed to the side because it just don't fit the time and the moment or the situation. So, when do you turn it on? When do you turn it off?
But
That
is that okay? Is that healthy in a relationship to
I don't.
push? Because it's like you said. You said intimacy could be just having a glass of wine with your mate,
Yeah,
or intimacy could be sitting down watching movies with your mate. Now, for me, who are married for 25 years and was with my husband for 30 years, I always tell the young people then that I talk to, invest in your marriage, because you're gonna be with your mate longer than you're gonna be raising children, and them children gonna come and they're gonna be gone and they're gonna be you and your mate. And if you don't invest in your marriage, you ain't gonna have no marriage.
Give
You ain't
me
gonna have each
give
other.
me some
Your
specifics
career.
about investing.
These
Give me some
things are
specifics.
important. I'm gonna
Very.
make your next name. Your career, raising children, and all of that is
Mhm.
important. But I find being married for all them years that your intimacy with your mate is vital. It is very important
Very.
for a relationship.
Pinky,
If you allow that to die, having a glass of wine, having a conversation, having vulnerability, having openness, having conversation, having sexual relations, if you don't invest in those things, your marriage, your
And-
long-term relationship is not going to last unless you two just agree to be roommates and you don't talk,
Right.
because talking also is a part of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
who,
But
teach,
Neil, go ahead, Randy, sorry.
who teach you intimacy? How
And also,
did
I was gonna say, like, codependency. No one don't want a mate that's so dependent on them. Like,
Right.
you know, like, go
That's an individual
go
thing, though.
do your own
You
thing.
can't say that.
Go
They
do
got a
your
bunch of
own
people that
thing.
like that, though. They got a bunch of people that like that,
Mm.
right? I will say this, Pinky. I see something on Facebook where this person say, "Who you marry today ain't the person of your dreams," because every day people changing. So you may be one person today. If you still stuck on that person you marry on day one, you're losing, because in 20 years they're gonna change. Their whole philosophy could change.
Right.
A lot of stuff could change.
Of
You have to
course.
evolve together.
Yeah, you evolve together. Yeah, so
That's
true.
so? Who taught you intimacy?
Eva?
Who taught you intimacy?
My
Who
mother,
taught you?
my
That's
mom,
that is a good question, because I meant to say something earlier. Like, who taught me intimacy, Lord?
Well, I know I had to teach myself intimacy
I think
because
so.
I came from a single mom, and
Yeah.
no, I didn't see intimacy growing up. I not at all. And my mother is Christian old school. They don't
you
hug you,
see
they don't say I
examples of
love
it,
you, they don't kiss you. Like, my mother never hugged me, my mother never kissed me, my
but
mother
did you
never
see
said
examples, sir?
I love you, Pinky. And I had to learn. And like I said, it's just old school Christian. That's just how they is. Being criticizing, they did what they know. So when I got children and stuff like that, my husband, he was like, you don't hug and you don't kiss. And I was like, well, we got to do that far. That was my theory. And then he was like, no, sir, I can't. I didn't come from this kind of life. And I had to learn. And so, and now, even from my mistakes, another thing teach me intimacy.
Mhm.
And I intimate with the dogs. I intimate with my children, because me and I no relationship, right?
Mhm.
But I learned that all of that is intimacy, because opening in yourself
Mhm.
is intimacy. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just actually, to answer your question, there's two marriages growing up, because, like Pinky, I was raised as single by a single mom, and my mom didn't have men coming through her house. So like I never knew if my mom dated. Still don't know who my mom may have dated when I was a child. But there are two households. One was my Auntie Carmen and my Uncle Henry. And the next one was my Uncle Henrique and my Auntie Nama. And when you see them, like, I'm sure marriages aren't perfect, right? But my Uncle Henrique, he would, like, what's the word? Like, he would, like, hand, like, he was just affectionate. So he would just come up and hug out my Auntie Nama, and she's like, okay, give me a. So they were very playful, and I love that, right? And no matter what, like, they may have bad days, but Auntie Nama always took care of him.
That's what Kiva
Always. And then, like, with my Auntie Carmen and Uncle Henry, it's the same. They cater to each other. Like, Uncle Henry just knew what Auntie Carmen needed that day. If he was out on the road and he was passing Thomas Bakery, and she must have said, like, a couple days ago, like, I could really have a nice butter bread, he would stop and go and get the butter bread. It was just those little things, that how he showed love to her. It was just like, okay, that's what I want. And like, my sister and my brother-in-law, in my eyes, they have a great marriage. I know nothing is always perfect and fine and dandy, but like they are partners, they're lovers, they're parents, they still date each other. Like that's what I want. Like just because we married 17 years, they still go on dates. They go
It's
on
called
vacations.
commitment.
They go on vacations. They have vacations. They go on dates. All kind of stuff. So I love it. Those three marriages right there are where I learned intimacy. And like I may be single now, and I look forward to having a relationship where I can experience those acts of love and intimacy with my future spouse or partner.
So who teach you, Randy and Neil? Who want to go first?
Let me.
I could go. I think I get off pretty much my mom and my mom's side of the family. Like I never thought like when you divorce you could have get along, right? But I see my aunt every year have a New Year's Eve party and her ex-husband there and the guy she there with and her ex-husband they partying and laughing together, right? That was like shocking to me because when you break up with somebody, it was always ugly, you don't talk to them, all them thing. And how my mother talked to me, I realized about 15 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, right there, that how my mother dealt with me, she get it most of them because I was always high strung, I was doing something wrong, but she was always able to reach me with loving kind words all the time, right? But if I need to get beat, she beat me, right? But there's always she talked to me, explain stuff to me, show me how to solve stuff, right? So as I get older, I realize that that's what the type of stuff that I need in my life, right? Because
Mhm.
I mean, even to this day, I talk to my mom often, and we have conversations. I didn't have it with my dad, and my dad is a Scorpio, and my mom is a Scorpio, right? But my dad and my mom were on opposite ends of the spectrum,
Mm.
right? So I had a balance in my life, and I
We
saw
love
how
hard. We
yeah,
love very hard.
yeah I saw how
Yes.
my mom dealt with my dad, how she dealt with my sister, my brother, myself, her siblings. Like it was all like the same, right? So yeah, that-
Sorry, I smiling at my little baby. She there looking at me right from she won't come in. Randy, what about you? She's so cute as a baby.
Mine trial and error, trial and error, and just plain experience from partner to partner. What felt good to me is what I reciprocated. That's the best way I can put it.
Mhm.
Until you ain't gonna do better until you know better. So
Mhm.
as I knew better, I did better, and that was my experience.
Right. I learned from a lot of I look back now and I could see the progression, but I know the mistakes that I made.
Mhm.
I didn't know it at the time, but I could look back now. So that's also a learning tool. You know what I'm saying? As I go forward in life.
can I say something? I always wonder, right? We all say that we have best friends, um, and all of that stuff, right? And we could be around them 24/7, no arguing, always having fun and all that stuff, right? But then you say you want a best friend and a husband or a wife, and then you get that, but it don't translate the same way as it is with your best friend, right? Is it because come see me and come live with me two different things, or it's just two different types of principles when it comes to a best friend? Like that it with all the time. Because my best friend, when I'm my best friend, then me and them don't get no argument. Like and even if we have heated conversation, it never it never goes to a level where like we'll never talk and so right. We gotta respect, right? We just try to understand each other. And I think like people always say that about the mate, but is that really true, right? Do you treat them really with the same respect that you do your friend girl or your boy, and you know what I mean, that are gonna give you advice when, or is a shoulder to lean on when in times, when times are hard. So I always wonder that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think like when people say like they you show up, there's when you show up for a best friend, sometimes you don't even have to say words,
Right.
just your presence alone gives them the confidence to like do what they need to do just by the sight of you, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what people look for in their spouses and their mates when it comes to intimacy. Like they just want somebody who is going to just hold them down, like when they lose a job and they're feeling less of a person because they're not bringing in that money like they used to. They want that spouse to be like, babe, it's okay. This is our rough patch right now. We're gonna get through it. You know what I'm saying? That's the best friend part of intimacy that relationships need.
I gonna said this. Vincent used to always argue with me. I said that I had mouth for he, but I didn't had mouth for my friends them. And my sister will tell me the same thing. I got mouth for she, but I don't got mouth for my friends them. Meaning I don't let a lot of people just get. They claim I used to let people get away with stuff, which I don't. I used to always say because my husband, my late husband, I deal with you every day. We raising our kids together. We have to have common goals together. Me and Debbie maybe is about friends, maybe a year different from Vincent. But me and Debbie raising kids together. How Debbie choose to raise her kids, she choose to raise her kids. That ain't got nothing to do with me. How she show up in her intimate relationship with her mate, how she show up with me is two different things. Our finances, we have to be on the same accord with finances, right? And so that's the difference between a friend and a mate, right? A mate you got to live with, like you said, come see me and come live with me. It's two different things. You ask the friend to come live with you now, I don't know. But, and some of your friends, I gonna say, I got some friends, but me really want them living with me. Heck no, I glad when they got home. So I glad we spend 2 hours. I glad we spend 4 hours together, but I glad we spending 24 hours together. I use my friend, but me trying to spend 24 hours with you 7 days a week. No. So that's the thing, and the problem I gonna say with this is, Neil, that relationship takes two people that's willing to walk on the relationship. Mm-hmm. If two people ain't willing to walk for the same thing, the goal of the relationship to stay together, whatever, you're gonna have problems.
Right.
And if you can't talk to your mate, you're gonna have problems.
So I know a woman tell me, right? She said she get married, she got children. Her husband come before her children them.
I've heard that.
Right? And listen, before I get married, I date woman that had children, right? And there's always my children come first. You gotta tell me that, right? I understand that. I tried to say this. I know in some marriages, woman are put it all into the children because it's like a man can walk around my children and this. But I learned your children are give the worst hurt in the world. Right? It's like, yeah, a man can hurt you, but you bore this child, you post you all into it, you willing to die for the child, and this child just that's a serious hurt. So whole thing was I gonna make sure I keep nurturing my husband, because to your point, Pinky, at some point they're gonna be gone. And then when they gone, you nurture, like you said, you invest in the marriage, or even a husband he invest in it. When the children walk away, what you gonna do? I can be watching the wall like crazy, because I ain't going to talk about. It was only the common goal was the children and not you. So yeah, how you approach it, how you deal with it, how you circumnavigate the whole relationship. to me, if you do it with love and caring, honesty, right? I would be willing to be vulnerable. I was told that I always go 100%, right? My mother tell me I afraid because every time you get a relationship, you're 100%. But my thing is, everybody wants to give them 100%, but most of the people that want 100% ain't even willing to give 100%. You can't expect 100% if you're willing to give 100%. And to Randy's point, that's when it'll be lopsided, right? Because a woman might come in and she may be giving her but the dude is like, I don't know, I mean, I still on the fence. On the fence about what? Either you're in or you're out. People will be on the fence all the time, and for whatever reason, right? But that to
Well,
me will cause issues with intimacy and stuff as well.
well, couple things. Kids kill intimacy. Okay, when you don't have
What?
your personal time with your spouse,
You said they'll kill intimacy?
it's like
Sharon.
yeah, your children. They, like I get the whole family bed thing, but like how what kind of intimacy, what kind of privacy can you have if there's a child in your bed every night, right? You can't have those difficult conversations, and stuff like that. And sometimes, like what your friend said, like her husband before her children, yeah, I get it. I get it. It's a very controversial
Yes.
um way of thinking,
Topic.
right? But if
Topic.
you look at it, if there was no relationship, no courtship, no marriage with their spouse, there will be no children, right? So the things that you had to do in your relationship with your spouse before y'all were married, it's some of the things that you're gonna still have to do after you're married, after the kids come. You're gonna have to give him or her their undivided attention, fix the kids up early, get them, that way so that you can have that personal time with your spouse, you know what I'm saying? And then another thing, what you were just talking about the balancing act or whatever. So Michelle Obama has a new book, and I was watching a video with her, and she was talking about something that she put in her book. That at one point, like everybody says, "Oh my God, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, they have like the best relationship, and they're like such relationship goals." And she was like, "There were some times when they were not relationship goals. There were
Right.
some times when like
She was
he
depressed.
was giving 70% and she was just giving 30, or
Right.
sometimes
I saw that, yeah.
he was giving 70% and he was just getting 30. And it was in those times where like you like pull your weight, like this is just too much on my shoulders. Like I need you to step up. And I'm sure during those times, intimacy probably sucked. But she was saying that in their marriage, it went through certain phases. And what she wanted young people to do is that when they get married, that they don't give up in like the first hurdle that they have. They have to like go through that process so that they learn and evolve into a new person on the other end once
Mhm.
they've gone through that little hurdle. And so like I think when people are like navigating their relationships, and I look forward to putting this to practice, but like you have to just go through the hurdle. If you just give up, just out back, like really, was there intimacy? Was there a relationship? Did you really love me? Was it a conditional, commitment that we had? Like, what was it? Because if it's not unconditional, I ain't want it.
Randy, you wanted to say something? We have to close in a bit.
No. It's man.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
a woman I been with tell me when she was married, her husband, whatever she do, she consider her husband feelings before hers, and I watch her like she crazy. I was like, who does that, right? But then I said to myself, you know what? Let me try it because that's how I am. Somebody tell me something that resonate with me, and I try to apply it to my life to see if it really works.
Mhm.
People get advice, but they don't ever apply it to themselves, right? So
One of the advice I had to give myself a couple years ago was pinky practice what you preach.
yeah, and listen, I was surprised, right? Because I would have make decisions, right, that would please me, but it won't please her. But then I'll be on a selfish level, doing that. But when
Mhm.
I consider that, I was like, well, if I do this, she probably gonna like it because I know what her likes and dislikes are. I was like, you know what? I probably ain't gonna do that. Let me just do something that both of us like. And one of my partner tell me, anytime you want your spouse to do anything with you, he said, if you want to do something, right, you need to make sure you got something for your spouse as well, because you doing something for only you and not including your spouse, you always have a problem.
Right.
So consideration for the other person is a big, big thing.
Right.
Very true.
And consideration and understanding without judgment, because that's another thing we don't do. We don't become so familiar with our mates that because they don't see things like I think back on our days where we lacked intimacy, like the Obama, and I did have at one time I had 3 children in the bed, my son. One time I had 3 children in the bed. Kai was nursing children. I had 2 children in 1 year. So I had 2 children in 1 year, and I couldn't. I was tired, and I had children to carry to school, and so these were problems, right? So I had sickness because Vince was sick. We had sickness. We had 3, 4 children. We had work issues. We had financial issues. We were tired. We weren't communicating. And back then, we were judging one another. We were blaming one another. And the fact is, these are normal things that relationships don't go through. And that's why I could look back now and I could see. They were normal. We don't go through them. We have to go through them so we can learn. And if we don't go through them exactly, we don't go through others. That's just the way our relationship is, right? And from there we grow, and from there we learn if we are willing, and if we feel like the relationship is worth saving, right? Because some of them, and 2 people have to want to save the relationship. 1 person can't want to save the relationship. You gotta have 2 people wanting to be in a relationship together, or else it's not gonna work. But how do these are the things that do ruin intimacy. And then once you have intimacy ruined within your relationship, you don't have it, verbal, non-verbal, sexual, non-sexual. If you do not have it, then the relationship actually starts to die, because intimacy is the food, is the air, is the breath. It's everything that a relationship needs to grow and to flourish. I like to water it. Example, it's the water. If we water it, intimacy, if we water the relationship and intimacy be in the water, then we'll have a good harvest from it. But if we don't water it, the relationship dies, right? So
me and Randy talked earlier today, right? And I was telling him, I put some thought, and I was like, intimacy is like the pilot light, right? It's always there, and ever so often, put it on high, medium, you know what I mean, whatever, but it never goes out. As long as that seed of intimacy there on both sides, I think there's always a possibility. But if one person decides, hey, I done with it, like Andy said, then you're not coming back.
You know what's so funny? I gotta add to you. You never know how much love you put out until you've seen the love you didn't receive. Okay. Food for thought.
Okay. And
wow.
I can't pass it myself, so.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Wait, now say it again, Randy, because I had it and then it just slip away from my brain these days.
I go. You never
say one more time.
You never know how much love you put out until the love is not returned. You don't get it back. You don't know how much love you put out. You don't know until it's not received back to you. So in a nutshell, you can love somebody to the point where you love them more than yourself. You are no longer first. You check what I'm saying? So you're loving them more than you love yourself, and it's not even being returned.
Right.
So let me ask you something. So as long as you're doing that, you're not able to comprehend how much you're giving.
Correct.
But then after you're gone, then you come back and you say, oh, wow.
Yeah,
After you lost it, okay.
correct. Yeah.
But the thing about that's very powerful, Randy. But the thing about that was we should never love nobody more than we love ourselves.
That's not for everybody and all people. However, I was that, so I understand that.
But we know that will coming from a not a healthy place, though, right?
No, you could say that. You could say that, but I would put it this way: how healthy or unhealthy is irrelevant, because this is a situation where you might want the relationship to really work. So you're putting in everything you know how and know of to salvage or rekindle or fix or whatever the relationship requires, and putting yourself in the forefront or putting the relationship in the forefront, losing yourself in the end. And that's the point is, I have a, oh God, I don't want to say the wrong term, oh God, you're invested. No, I have a doctor friend, the guy ain't know the terminology, so I ain't gonna mess it up. I have a doctor friend that's a professional at this, and one of the most scariest thing about a relationship, believe it or not, is how far you're willing to go before
Mm-hmm.
you realize that the person is not going with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the analogy is swimming. Some people want to go in the water till reach your knees. Others want to go waist deep. Some will go chest high. Some will even go as far as your neck. And then there's some that swim out into the ocean. Where is your mate?
Mm.
Notice I didn't ask where you are. Where is your mate? And that will determine the depths of your relationship.
Mm.
I agree with you, Randy. I agree with you, but I gonna say this not to say what you're saying is wrong, but maybe it's how you're saying it, and not that you're saying it wrong either. I don't think you're saying it wrong. I gonna
It's how
just
she comprehending it.
I gonna just how I comprehending it and how I gonna clarify to what I said. I said you shouldn't love nobody more than you love yourself. That's number one, right? And so if we love ourselves, we're comfortable with self to express love however we choose to express it in this world. If we choose to go, up to our throat in the water analogy, and express love, because I had to get to that comfortable place in my life where, so we might think we give more, and we may give more than we receive, right? Because you seem like you're that type of person, and I seem to always find myself in that situation where I give more than I receive. But I had to get comfortable with that. Like, this is me. And if I want to show love and give love in this manner, I'm going to give it in this manner. And I'm going to have to be comfortable with that, because I'm not going to let another person define how I give love. However, right. I still don't love you more than I love self, because I have to take care of self. Self comes first. Mm-hmm. I love me, and I choose to show up in the world a specific way.
Right.
But I don't love you more than I love me. I still love myself. I just choose to express love in a different way that maybe Neil or Corita will express it, or you, and to somebody else it's like, oh, Pinky just overdoing it, but that's just me, right? Some people are letting dog lick their face. I love my grand dogs, but I'm not letting you lick my face. And when I come very, very close, I don't want to kiss them, because I love them so much. I don't want to kiss them, and I'll be like, heck no, I'm not kissing, and I'm not letting you lick my face. Like, this is just happening.
You know you don't do that? You know you don't do that?
Why?
Because telling you how you were brought up on the islands. When we were growing up, dog was just for the yard, not for your house.
They ain't my house. We don't even I got 3 dogs in the house right now. And I love them. I can't wait till they leave. But I love them, I can't wait till they leave. But I got 3 in the house. But I ain't letting you lick my face. But you got other people that are let a dog lick their face. And I get it. Let it lick your face. And so I'm saying, you might express it one way and another person may express it another way. But I don't necessarily would believe would go as far as to say, I love the dog more than I love me. I just won't say that. So Randy, I hear what you're saying, but
Hey,
And that's
Randy,
how I was saying, you know,
I
what I said.
I don't know. To me,
Also, people need to show up in their relationships completely by themselves, right?
Which is hard because we allow other people to define how we show
Your
up.
mate can't complete you. You know, you need to be able to complete yourself. You need to show up authentically. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
if you're trying to be something you're not, it's going to come back in that relationship, and you're it's just like dead on arrival. So
Yeah.
just try to be your authentic self, you know, and just show up and show out. Every day.
so,
Kindness matters. You know, love is always gonna win. All these hashtags that just literally came to my mind. I know they're corny and they can be cliches, but really and truly, if we just show up authentically 100% every day, right? Hold no resentment, no judgment. We know how to completely um be ourselves. We're not dependent on our mate. We
then
have
we'll
our
be
own
God.
hobbies, our own likes, but yet we can still come together and enjoy each other, companionship, and you know, and love and chemistry and stuff like that, and just explore life and adventure together. I mean, that's intimacy, and I think that's what folks should focus on.
So
Well, I
I
got
mean,
close.
hey,
Neil.
Pinky. So for me, right? I don't tell you. I don't get 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I expect. You can't want 100% on somebody and you're not willing to give it, but it happens all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I know. One of the things I know in life, you can't escape hurt. If you want to live in this world, something gonna hurt you. Somebody gonna hurt you somewhere along the line, right? How you deal with that makes a big difference, right? So when I go in and I give 100%, are you willing to risk? Because if you're not willing to risk anything, what are you gonna gain? There's risk and reward.
That's
How
right.
much are you willing to risk for the reward, right?
That's right.
That's it. And if I get hurt along the way, you know what I would say? God got me anyway. So
Hmm.
what you do to me, yeah, it may hurt now, but the bigger picture is I want to be able to then ascend from here and go to heaven, right? So I gonna do it as I see the right way. I gonna come 100%. If if you don't get that, at some point somebody may get it, right? My
Yeah.
brother tell me, sometimes you gotta kiss a couple of frogs before you get to the right one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So,
just
Some
ain't.
days I go home.
I don't say me
go
kissing no
big
heap of.
one.
I don't like frogs. The slimy and the gay what. I ain't kissing no heap of
I
frog.
mean,
I just.
you know, who knows?
I just say I gonna save my kisses for a human and not a dog and no frogs for sure. So but I have to wrap up now. It's time for me to wrap up. I gonna say this. We need it. We need intimacy. We need it in our friendships. We need it in our platonic and our romantic relationships because it is what we need. We need to be vulnerable to it, but the people we have to be vulnerable to has to be safe people, right?
Be specific.
And
Be specific for me, please, because you could be intimate with your own self. So
but we have to. We need to be intimate with ourselves.
okay,
So you're right, Neil. So let me start there. We need to start with intimacy with self.
okay,
And how do we become intimate with self is the same way we become intimate with a partner.
okay.
If we are truly intimate with self, where we get in touch with self, where we open to self, where we truly see self for what it is, and we face our demons for what they are, we could do that in a relationship, but it starts with self.
Yeah.
And then, but again, I have learned we cannot be open and safe with everybody because everybody don't have good intentions towards you. And that's the self-love I'm talking about. That's the part that we can't love nothing else besides we love our God first, then self, then family, friends, whatever, lover, whatever. But it starts with God, then us, because if we could do that for self, we will do it in a relationship, right? But we're here to learn and grow. So we're gonna close with that, and I'm going to say, we ain't got Janos and we ain't got Debbie tonight. And so my saying is, I don't know. Don't be a part of the problem. Always be a part of the solution as much as you can. Good night, everybody.
You know,
Night, good
Thank
night.
you, guys. Thank
Randy.
you.
Nice to see you again, Neil.
yeah, I don't think you remember me from when you were small. I remember you though. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, good night.